Welcome to the Everybody Matters podcast, a show dedicated to the idea that when organizations care enough to show their people that who they are and what they do matter, they unlock the only business idea with truly unlimited potential. I'm Brent Stewart, your host. This podcast is an outreach of Barry Waymiller. Don't forget to connect with us on the web at barrywaymiller.com, on Twitter at Barry Waymiller, on Facebook and LinkedIn, and check out our blog, trulyhumanleadership.com. From time to time on Everybody Matters, we have the opportunity to share stories from leaders about their particular leadership journeys, the twists and turns the roads in their lives have taken that led them to where they are now, often filled with insight and advice to share with others. On this episode, we feature an edited presentation by Tim Noonan, Vice President of Training Systems and Government Services at Boeing. Tim, who is also a member of Barry Waymiller's Board of Directors, leads 2,200 teammates at 6 major sites within Boeing's Global Services and Support business unit. The business develops and delivers air crew and maintenance training, infrastructure support, and logistics information management systems to customers all over the world. Tim served as a U.S. Marine Corps officer after graduating from the U.S. Naval Academy. He has an MBA from the University of Pennsylvania. He is a founding board member of Friends of Soldiers Memorial in St. Louis and serves on the boards of the Mission Continues and Project Frog. Since 2008, Tim has been a Henry Crown Fellow of the prestigious leadership and policy organization, the Aspen Institute. As Tim tells his story, he talks about the idea that we're all heroes and helpers who play important parts in the lives we encounter along our way. So here's Tim Noonan and his leadership journey.
I don't know if has anybody read any David Brooks? Read David Brooks, The Road to Character? What Brooks talked about fundamentally is the struggle we all have as people between what he calls Adam 1, like Adam and Eve, Adam 1, which is the success-driven side of our lives, and Adam 2, which is the search for meaning. And it is in this struggle where we define our personal road to character, where we define how we choose to lead, where we decide whether or not and how we face into the challenges that we have on the front lines of our life. And so, I love this quote, never cease chiseling your own statue. Because in many ways, this is what the leadership journey is all about. It's a constant struggle to fight inside of yourself and decide to lead in service to others. So, Joseph Campbell wrote this book in 1949 called The Hero with a Thousand Faces. And what he talked about, and I'm going to use this as the basis for talking about my leadership journey a little bit. What he talked about is how we all get this call for adventure, and we all get magic helpers, and we go across this threshold, and we decide to come back with a boon to society. When George Lucas read this book, it's the basis of Star Wars. It's the basis of almost any great movie, play, TV show, book you've ever written, which is a hero gets a call to adventure, gets some help, faces some tests, returns across the threshold, brings the boon back to society. And I'm going to use this as sort of the basis to talk about my leadership journey and this fundamental idea of heroes and helpers and what it means in our lives, because I'll challenge you to think about this. We're all heroes, we're all helpers, we're all founders, and we all work at a startup called our life. And so, viewed through that lens, we can all be entrepreneurs. And these things that are happening, it's really fascinating what Campbell talks about in this book. The threshold crossing, the brother battle, the dragon battle, dismemberment, crucifixion, abduction, night, sea journey, wonder journey, whale's belly. And the way these things happen, the way that you reconcile as you go through the threshold is through things like sacred marriage, father atonement, finding sacredness or grace, stealing something and returning it to society, think Raiders of the Lost Ark. Return and resurrection, because you have to return. You have to return. And so, just as a brief aside, I would challenge you to think about, this is one of the big things that faces veterans today. Because what veterans do, Marine, hoorah, is they get a call to adventure. They get magic helpers called drill instructors. And then they go in this threshold crossing and they have literal battles. Literal battles, as you know. Dismemberment, literal dismemberment. And then they get stuck and they can't come back into society. So as you think about that, as you think about meeting veterans in your lives, think about what it might be like to go through some of these tests and not be able to come back across. And so I'm going to talk a little bit too as I go forward. You know, I think I've been fortunate to experience sacred marriage and to return, and I'm going to talk about that a little bit. Okay, so here we go. Helpers and tests. So I'm going to talk to you about my leadership journey through the framework of helpers and tests. This is when I was a teen. These are my 10s. These are my 10s. My football coach, Coach McKee, Coach Mike McKee said, hey, try out for the varsity football team at Chaminade. Challenge yourself. Make it happen. And I did. I made the football team. It was a challenge. It was a gritty experience. I went off to Naval Academy Prep School because I was too stupid to get into the Naval Academy the first time around. So they said, hey, go off to prep school. Go get smart. I met these guys. This guy, Rich Flynn, dismemberment. He lost a leg in Vietnam. Teaches English. Swam across the Chesapeake Bay every year. Amazing guy. This guy. Anybody, you know that guy? So General Jim Mattis ended up being a 4-star general. When he was at the Naval Academy Prep School, he was a major. And he ended up becoming probably, as you know, the greatest warfighting general of this generation for the Marines. I got in a bunch of trouble with General Mattis. And this guy, Dick Stratton. Dick Stratton spent 7 years as a POW. So when you're 18 years old, it's 1983, you can't imagine a decade, right? You're like 18, holy cow. I mean, Dick Stratton, I mean, shoot, he got out of Hanoi like 10 years ago. I mean, he became a prisoner of war. I was barely even born. And I had the honor of learning from these guys. Let me tell you a story. Stayed out too late. Ended up going to captain's mast, which is non-judicial punishment. And I ended up getting restricted to the boat for 60 days. The boat was essentially a building. And fined half a month's pay for 2 months. Almost got thrown out of the Naval Academy Prep School. These guys said, that's okay. This is a good test for you. This is a good test of your character. You know, guys that have literally been in the whale's belly, been abducted, been dismembered. You learn from those people because they know things that you don't know, because they know. Because they know. This guy, it was on April 1st, 1993, and I had resigned from the Marine Corps. And I really, for all my heart, I either wanted to go to Harvard Business School or go to the Wharton School. But there's another theme here. It's kind of too stupid to get in. Didn't get in. Thorough rejection. And I'll never forget it. I was promoted to captain, and this guy Paul Teedy said, you know, why don't you do something to get in? Why don't you do something to get to where you want to go? I'm like, that's a great idea. So I went to admin officer, Lieutenant Colonel Anna Smythe at 1 MEF, or 3 MEF, and said, hey, I'd like to unresign from the Marine Corps. I've resigned from the Marine Corps, but I'd like to unresign from the Marine Corps. And she said, well, what do you think you'd like to do? I'm like, I don't know. What do you got? I got offered company command at 31st MEU. I got offered the opportunity to go to Romania, and I took the opportunity to go to Romania. And so this call to adventure, the help that you get, you have to keep your ears open for it. And sometimes you actually have to ask. You have to ask. And help appears. It's shocking, but true across our lives. I know hopefully every one of you right now are thinking about those times in your life where like, yeah, it's kind of weird, isn't it? Call to adventure, ask for help, helpers show up, take you across the threshold to an adventure, then bring you back. So I got out of the Marine Corps, didn't know what to do, grew my hair long, moved to New York City, went and worked at New Line Cinema, got into the media business. New Line Cinema, I got fired. I was there for about 6 months. I was there for 6 months, horrible fit, horrible fit. I kind of thinking, I want to be successful, I want to be in the movie business, this is going to be really cool, and a serious clash of values, serious clash of values. And I'll tell you the story. I went in one day and this guy, I won't name names, but he said, this just isn't working out. I'm going away to the Hamptons for a couple of weeks for vacation. When I come back, I want you to be gone. Like, well, what do you mean? Gone. It's like, what? Am I fired? Don't you know this is me? You can't fire me. And I did. I got fired. But in that moment, I said, you know what? This is a little bit unjust. And I said, that's cool, you can fire me, but I want you to pay me half a month's salary or half a year's salary in a lump sum. He's like, we're not going to do that. I said, that's the leverage I've got because I don't think it's just. They wrote me a check. So I learned a very valuable lesson about standing up for myself and how to negotiate in that moment. These are some good friends. This guy, Mike Monroe, he challenged me to do an Ironman. I'd never ran more than about 10 or 12 miles. I'd never swam more than about 500 meters. I'd never been on a bike. And I'm like, how hard can this be? Like, I got a book. I built a workout program. And a year later, we did the Ironman together. So as I'm in my 40s, I get married. I'm starting over. Sold my house, sold my business. Moved back to St. Louis. I go from being a 38-year-old knucklehead, never been married, never been close. You know what I'm talking about. To being a dad. 2 wonderful children, Jessica and Johnny. And we get married and start a family. I take a year off. I figure out what's next. And this guy, Carter Williams, hires me at Boeing. He hires me at Boeing. And we start a family. We have 3 kids real quickly. And after we have our first kid, one of the things I got really passionate about, I said, being a Marine, there's all these guys getting banged up and wounded. I said, I got to go raise some money for some injured Marines. So I did another Ironman and raised $100,000 for Injured Marine Semper Fi Fund. Great event. Wonderful, wonderful event. And all these people, all these great people have helped me along the way. Eric Motley, who many of you know, introduced me to many, many, many people, including Bob. This guy, Pat Finneran. This guy, Tom Gunn. My good friend, Eric Greitens. Dennis Mullenberg, who's the CEO of the Boeing Company. David Kidder, Steve McBee, Tom Bell, Pauline Brown. All were helpers for me to figure out this side of my life and these calls to action. These calls to action. I started a nonprofit called Give Back 10 to help wounded warriors. We merged it into the Mission Continues. I had the great honor of taking on a fellowship at the Aspen Institute. And you've got to realize, I'm a dummy. I didn't get into the Naval Academy. I didn't get into the schools I wanted to go to. And it's because of this magic help. So think for a minute. Think about your magic helpers. Who are your helpers who've challenged you to take this journey, to take and listen to this call for adventure, to adventure? So here I am in my 50s. Magic help keeps showing up. Bob Chapman. Great institutions like Barry Wehmiller. We moved our children to New City School because we weren't satisfied with the amount of diversity we had in our lives. Gone back into my faith. Back to the college church. So as I stand at another threshold, I'm asking myself, what's the next call to adventure? I have no idea. What's next? I have no idea. But I know help's going to show up. And challenge me. Just like I'm sure you're challenged. And you have to listen for it and listen to it. So here's some ideas that I kind of wrote down and over time. Purpose trumps pleasure, meaning trumps money. You don't understand that, at least I didn't understand it when we started. A good life cannot be achieved on your own. There's no such thing as a self-made man. I'm a dummy. Know yourself, know your job, take care of others. Be grateful. We overestimate our strengths and rationalize our own failures. We think we're better than we are. Go do a survey. Ask somebody if they think they're a good driver, and 90% of the people think they're good drivers. Right? In its simplest form, that describes it. We're all damaged, flawed, and doing the best we can. As David Brooks talks about, we all come from crooked timber. Humility is the greatest virtue, pride the central vice. This road to humility. Steel yourself against marketing. I just threw that in there because the marketers are so good at telling us what they think we should be, how they think we should be, how we should act, what we should buy, when we should buy it. It is so sophisticated you don't even know what's happening to you. And it's getting more complicated every day. Every text, every Gmail, every Facebook post just cracks you open. Steel yourself against marketing. Journey requires ups and downs, trials and returns until the final trial. And you got to take the homeward road. Saw Wicked last night. Anybody see Wicked? It's awesome, isn't it? The Wizard of Oz is all about the homeward journey. You know, the other thing too that is worth amplifying. I talked about a little bit about helpers and trials. The strength of great institutions. I think about the number of great institutions that I've been associated with. Naval Academy, the Marine Corps, City of Clayton, where I worked for every summer cutting grass and every winter as a guard at the ice rink. All the way up till now to the Boeing Company, Barry Wehmiller. So you need to ground yourself in great institutions. Great institutions matter. They help us find our way. Because you can't do it on your own. That's a myth. It's a fantasy. So here's how I sum it up. Where I'm trying to maximize my life is around relationships, experiences, and memories. And what I call the seven F's. In the middle in the middle is semper fidelis, always faithful to whatever it is you're faithful to. Friends, family, your financial system, how you make money, your fraternity, how you give back to your community, your faith, fun, and fitness. And what I find as a leader, when these things get out of whack, bad things happen, right? If you're spending, all your time at work, something's got to give. If you spend no time staying fit, something's going to give. If you don't figure out how to have fun, something's going to give. And so, I take stock every so often around this dimension. I kind of think of it as a spider diagram and kind of talk to my family about it. So, there are some times when I got to spend a ton of time at work. But that is fuel for the engine. Money's nothing more than congealed energy. It's congealed energy. It creates time. It creates comfort. It removes obstacles. And you can't give up on any one of these either. You have to invest in all of them. This is what Joseph Campbell said about the hero. The hero, therefore, is the man or woman who's been able to battle past his personal and local limitations to the generally valid, normally human forms. Where he had thought to be alone, he shall be with the world. I thought this was great. This quote, it's actually 2 sentences from this book, I think it describes Barry Wehmiller in many ways. This idea of not alone, with the world. I think Barry Wehmiller represents the best of what the world has to offer. So, what's your next call to adventure? Do you have one in you? I saw this quote by Arthur Ashe as well. True heroism is remarkably sober, very undramatic. Not the urge to surpass all others at whatever cost, but the urge to serve others at whatever cost. Very nice ethos of Barry Wehmiller there as well. Because I think we're taught, at least, I was taught, for better or for worse, that it is about the competition many times. It is about the, hey, follow me, follow me, follow me. As opposed to recognizing that true leadership is centered on giving power away, giving control away, giving things away. I think that that's one of the great things about Barry Wehmiller. I think Barry Wehmiller is at the forefront of a new leadership paradigm. Thinking about what it means to truly, truly lead and be heroes. So here's to your next adventure. Listen, the helpers will show up. And I know that I'm ready for mine.
If you'd like to find out more about Bob Chapman and Raj Sisodia's book, Everybody Matters, The Extraordinary Power of Caring for Your People Like Family, go to everybodymattersbook.com. For updates on the book, this podcast, to get a lot of great content and insight, don't forget to connect with us on the web at barrywehmiller.com, on Twitter at Barry Wehmiller, on Facebook and LinkedIn, and check out our blog, trulyhumanleadership.com. I'm Brent Stewart. Thanks for listening, and don't forget, Everybody Matters is the only business proposition with truly unlimited potential.